Good morning, everyone. What a difference a shave makes. Sometimes I go a couple weeks and I don't shave, but I wanted to share with you another book. This is my third-degree black belt thesis. It's just, there's no special cover. There's no special, but it was a very special test. I've studied a lot of, I haven't studied, like trained, but with other styles, but I've asked several other studios if they've had to write a thesis for their black belt, and most people haven't. I'd say 99.9% haven't. I've never heard of anyone else requiring a 100-page thesis. But this was on September 8, 2001. I specifically remember a question that was asked of me. This is dedicated to my wife, Julie. Here's Grandmaster Chung. And so in attendance of my thesis, of the test, there's a physical aspect of it. There's sparring, there's performing the forms. Forms are katas, so it's like a fight within yourself, and it's basically a pre-structured moves, and the way that you perform the moves is basically the way you perform your life. That's what you do. What you do with a lot of passion, relax when you move, and then you tighten up when you punch or block. You're actually key-opping, screaming throughout it as well. But the higher up you get, the more moves there are. And so after the initial, so I made 6 copies of my thesis for the judges. Grandmaster Chung was one of the judges, and then there was 4 other Korean-born judges, grandmasters as well there, and then so they kind of look over the thesis, and while you're standing there in June B right in front of them, and then they ask you various questions about the thesis and about oh, you know what? This is funny. Well, not funny, but basically, I mean, everybody knows that I fish quite a bit, and I haven't seen this thesis in a long time. Fishing and Taekwondo. Fishing and Taekwondo. This was on a 5-day fishing trip on the Qualifier 105. I remember it very well. It was actually a date right here, May 26, 2001. You know why? Because that was my anniversary, and I was on a fishing trip, and my wife was not with me. And I remember taking it was a satellite phone in those days, and it was $5 a minute. I had to call Julie on my anniversary at sea. We were in Mexico. But this is a great story. I mean, basically your thesis it's my thesis, so I put my own stories in here. And of course, these stories are not in my book, but I mean, I got to read this. I haven't looked at this in 20 years. But I wanted to share with you one of the stories, especially if you have kids. It's, gosh, a lot of these stories, oh, here's form. So form 12 was the form that I did. Look at this young guy. I notice I have a lot more hair there, so you can tell. That was actually on Broad Beach. Look at how much beach there is there, if you're familiar with Broad Beach. And there's no rocks. There's no rocks there. I still use the same uniform. And, okay, so I wanted to just read this to you. It's about kids, children. That's kind of what my book is about. I guess the first 100 pages of my book, The Matador and the Mustang, a different book other than this one. Forms is about mental. I was going to read you something about kids, but I'll read it. I guess I'll read it in another one. But I'll read you about mental forms. You want to hear about mental forms? Okay, I'll share with you about mental forms. One method of practicing my forms is by closing my eyes while sitting cross-legged and actually performing my techniques without moving a muscle. This helps to reassure myself that in order to really know the form thoroughly, you must first visualize it. And then the physical aspect is much easier. This style of practice also helps me to remember that in order to have a strong body, you must first have a strong mind. After all, the famous phrase goes, mind, body, and spirit. Not body, mind, spirit, or spirit, body, mind, or body, mind, spirit. It's body, mind, spirit. It's mind, body, spirit. The mind can sometimes play tricks on me, especially when I'm performing a mental form. I find that while executing a form properly, my mind must void all outside thoughts that are not affiliated with the form. Okay. Do I have your attention? You're gonna click away. This is before the internet. No, this wasn't before the internet. This is before all the stuff that we have going on. Foundation and flow. I would love to read this one to you. It's kind of long, but I am not in the construction business, but if someone asks, what do you think is the most important part of a building structure, they most likely will say the foundation. Whether it's a house, office building, high-rise, cottage, or even a relationship, it is the foundation. It is not possible to build a lasting structure on a weak or makeshift foundation. A foundation that is hurried or loosely thrown together will surely not last the test of time. Forms are the foundation of our system. They have been handed down from generation to generation. Once the foundation is built, then the walls can be added, and the roof and the fireplace. The advantage of working on the same foundation is that if you can't start one, then start another, and then there's a problem with one, then you can't move on to the next. It is very important, regardless of where the foundation is built, and perhaps the most important of all is to stay. The problem with leaving an unfinished foundation is that your life will be many starts and no finishes. When you need a roof over your head, there won't be a roof or walls because you never stayed to finish what was begun. Like the pure water like the pure water well that feeds the river. If the water is to remain clean and pure, it cannot be tainted by an outside source. Once the water reaches its destination, it must be delivered just as it began, pure to form. If the water does become changed by an outside source, this doesn't just affect the location of the contamination, but all water that flows from that point could kill the life that drinks from it. Water flows through the stream freely and sometimes furiously. If a boulder lands in the pathway of the water moves. The rock does not. Initially, the rock may succeed in stopping the water from flowing, but the persistence of the constant movement of the water eats away at the surface of the rock. Over the long consistency of water movement, the rock disappears because the water deteriorates the rock.